Simons. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're an executive director at the Club of Rome, Netherlands, and you're a climate systems analyst. So you focus on climate system dynamics and argue that warming risks are accelerating faster and more dangerously than many mainstream assumptions admit. May I ask you firstly, in your view, what is the mainstream assumption?
Until very recently, for example, let's say 10 years ago, the IPCC was communicating that we would reach about 1.5 degrees of global warming by about 10 years from now. And if you look at the temperature already the past 3 years, on average, we're already 1.5 degrees warmer. And regionally, the warming is going even faster than globally. And if you look at the models, they don't take into account crucial aspects of what determine both the regional and the global climate.
What are those crucial aspects?
Yeah, of course, most have heard about greenhouse gases causing warming. What many are not aware of is that air pollution causes regional cooling, and has done so for as long as we have been burning stuff, really. So potentially the past 6,000 years we have increased greenhouse gases by burning down forests and using agriculture, producing methane. But at the same time we were emitting air pollution, which increases cloud cover and which reflects sunlight back to space. And those have been, for about the past 6,000 years, until the Industrial Revolution, have been counterbalancing one another. So the climate was extremely stable for about 6,000 years, globally on average. But what we have done now, of course, with the burning of fossil fuels, in those fossil fuels is what's really crucial here is sulfur. And certain fuels, for example, heavy crude oil can contain up to 10% of sulfur. And part of it is taken out, but it's also in coal. And if you burn that, the sulfur goes into the atmosphere and reflects sunlight, but also increases cloud formation and causes regional cooling and also global cooling, which hides part of the warming of the greenhouse gases. And that has been known for quite a while, but it's the biggest uncertainty within climate science is how much cooling there really was from this mainly sulfur particles. There's also other particles involved, but the main cooling aspect is sulfur. And what we start to see now, based on mainly satellite data from NASA, we now have 26 years of data, is that we see there's an enormous increase in absorbed sunlight. Less sunlight is reflected back to space, and more sunlight is absorbed, which contributes to the rapidly accelerated warming, especially in the regions where we were emitting the most air pollution. For example, over China, but also over the oceans where we reduced sulfur emissions from shipping.
Yeah. Okay. So what is your idea now? How off is the mainstream narrative?
It's like the mainstream is always, it's such a broad word, right? So I think what we have to realize is that, for example, certain studies show that Europe, the summer warming in Europe is up to 1 degree warmer if you take into account this aspect of regional air pollution controls, than if you don't take that into account. And it's if you look at the Netherlands, for example, where I'm from, you see that there's an hour on average every day additional sunshine reaching the surface. So that's day and night average, 365 days a year. Every day, 1 hour of additional sunlight reaching the surface. So that's really an enormous amount of additional light. And of course that causes drying, that causes more evaporation. If you have more evaporation, you will have more extreme rainfall when the water comes down again. So yeah, and all this translates into You need, for example, different water resources, protection. You need different dikes if you want to have dikes that don't break when from drying, and then when a heavy storm hits. Then, so that's the perspective from the Netherlands. But for every country, if we invest globally hundreds of billions a year in infrastructure that's not ready for the future that we'll be facing in the coming decades. Then we really need to inform ourselves first on the reality, and based on that we need to take the appropriate actions. And it's like you need regional experts to use the knowledge of the global changes, because of course I cannot say what that would mean, for example, for Hungary. Hungary has its own issues, its own water resources, its own agricultural needs. Maybe you need different crops or whatever. Yeah.
What do you think the reason for this lack of knowledge is? Is it just a mistake, or is it willful ignorance?
I often give the example of The Inconvenient Truth, the movie. This subject is too inconvenient to be mentioned in The Inconvenient Truth. It's it's quite strange, and the only world leader who I've ever heard speak about this subject, believe it or not, was George W. Bush. He publicly talked about how actions we take can also have positive actions we take can have adverse side effects, like reducing sulfur can increase warming.
Yeah.
While his father was George Bush Sr. was partially responsible for the Clean Air Act in the United States, which led to cleaning up of sulfur emissions for health and environmental reasons, to, for example, fight acid rain.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you think it would change anything at all in worldwide policies if people would know this better?
Yeah, what we need to know is that the real climate impacts that are caused by our greenhouse gases have been hidden by air pollution. So if we reduce air pollution, we will be facing much more extreme climate change than most realize based on what they've experienced in the past.
Okay.
Because what we've experienced in the past doesn't inform us effectively about the future because of these hidden changes. And then, so if the world will be more aware of this really rapid rate of global but even more regional warming, I don't know, but I want to believe that we will do more to mitigate greenhouse gases and to adapt to the changes that are coming rather than adapt to, for example, in the Netherlands, we're talking about 1 meter of global sea level rise this century, but it might be 3 meters based on what happened after the last glacial period when we saw multiple meters of sea level rise within a century. We could face that again. The heat is there. All the heat that is in the system that continues to accumulate very rapidly in the system could lead to multiple meters of sea level rise within a century.
Okay. Well, all right. We're trying to make people aware also with this talk. So thanks for explaining this to us, man.